My name is Mac L, everybody. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee.
What was it like growing up?
You know, growing up was pretty interesting. I didn't have a really hard life like most people claim they do. I did come from the hood, you know, I was from the streets of North Nashville, Haynes Man to be specific. But I lived there for a short time. After that, I moved to the suburbs. Life was fun. I'd say I had a happy childhood. I was brought up on EPMD, Eric B. and Rakim, Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5, Public Enemy, The Lox, DMX, Nas. And that's only on the hip hop tip. Oh, a whole lot of Run DMC as well. Outside of that, you know, I grew up listening to a lot of Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5. I grew up on Earth, Wind and Fire, a lot of James Brown in the mix. You know, Patrice Rushen, a lot of soul music, a lot of R&B music, a lot of jazz music going on, especially Kenny G. And I also grew up listening to a lot of gospel as well. I was about 14, 15 years old. Made You Look It is still like one of the biggest things I think I was probably about, really it was about 13. And I had just started freestyle battling. So next thing I know, I battled this cat who's like twice my age. And I'm near the church I attended, which is in North Nashville. And I still remember lines like I just slaughtered him. You know, it's a lot of people don't know that it's part of one of my philosophies. A good artist is able to create off the top of the head. So if you call yourself a rapper, you know, freestyling is almost a requirement in my eyes. I know that don't happen nowadays, but it's whatever. But when that happened, you know, the person who I defeated, like I say, he's older, he's wiser than me. He said, you know, maybe you should start looking into this. Maybe you should start trying to take this to the next level. And after a little soul searching, a little research, I thought about it. I was like, you know what, I think this is the move that I should make. Every alias that I've created for myself through the years, you know, before Mac L and Mac the Knife, I was known in high school, I was Mac D or Mac Diesel. There was a short period of time as Mac Lock, but in high school was where Mac the Knife started. Every alias I have is derived from my biological name, Malcolm Lockridge. And Mac L originated on Facebook. And that was going to be, you know, I didn't want to put my name out there. I still don't like putting my name out on social networks where people could just search me, especially in this day and age. So that's where Mac L came about. More people started knowing me as Mac L than they did as Mac the Knife. And as for Mac the Knife, you know, I had gained that. That's originally a jazz song. The first version that I heard was done by Louis Armstrong, but there were other musicians that have done it, including Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra, and most recently Dee Snider. And, you know, for those who know the story, Mac the Knife is an opera. He's an assassin, really a serial killer. And I was a battle rapper. I was killing MCs, so that's where Mac the Knife came from. But yeah, Mac L was more so of a just, I guess you could say, divine intervention. Like I say my biggest break to this date though was March 30th, 2010, when I opened for the GZA of the Wu-Tang Clan. That's probably, to this day, that's my crowning achievement. And although, you know, I do look forward to some bigger and better things, that right there is my, you know, that's my moment right there. One person who I would like to work with, I like to work with Fashawn. I like Fashawn because he's, you know, he seems like a very humble cat. And he's from all the way in Cali. He associates himself with good peoples. He also has some very thought-provoking lyrics I think would be a good fit. Other people, you know, just on a large scale, you know, you got your obvious greats. You got Nas, and then you got some new jacks like J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar. You know, these people, I feel like they would complement my style and I could complement theirs. On a local scale, you know, I definitely would like to work with D Goods or Open Mic. You know, I've seen them putting in their work, and they do have talent behind this, so I wouldn't mind working with them either. You know, it's just a number of people who I really would like to work with though. Like I say my dream collaboration of one of them is Stevie Wonder. Raw Material is is a follow-up of my first mixtape, The Great American Paper Chase, which I put out back in 2008, well, reissued in 08, originally released in 06. But Raw Material is more into a glimpse of where I'm from and how I grew through it. You know, even though I say I have a happy childhood, I did experience a lot of things living through the East Coast, West Coast beef. Though it didn't affect me directly at all, I watched how, you know, people got so dedicated to these artists' lives that they put it over their own. And then also, because I lived in the suburbs, I was subjected to racism and discrimination at a very young age, you know, including racial profiling and all that stuff. So I wanted to put all the soul, all the heart that I had, you know, and all the other events that I had gone through growing up, and I just put it in this mixtape. See, raw material, the definition of that is the basic materials needed to make something. So what raw material to me, this mixtape was the basic thing, the basic foundations of what makes me as an artist. The current state of hip hop is in a very interesting stage. I see two sides to it. On one side, I see desperation. A lot of aspiring artists with no foundation, no sense of culture or history or even knowledge of self. You know, they trying to find that quick hit, and you know, they'll do whatever it takes to get there. The record labels, they're taking advantage of these guys, you know, selling them dreams and stealing their souls, and they just biting right into it. But on the other side, I see growth and evolution. I see a lot of artists taking more time to develop their crafts. I see more artists going back, studying the greats, figuring out what makes it great. It seems like you have, you know, it's kind of like yin and yang. For every Lil B, you got Kendrick Lamar. For every Waka Flocka Flame, you got J. Cole. It's still lopsided, but I do see a shift, and it's shifting in the right direction. I will be starting a foundation, and that foundation it's going to cover a number of things. I will be tackling a number of social issues. I will be getting into activism. You know, I want to encourage dreams. I want to start a scholarship fund to help children reach those dreams. I'm going to be addressing some issues. I'm pretty much trying to just be a catalyst for hip hop, especially here in Nashville. I do see myself pushing the city to the next level. I'm not seeing a consistent movement that has brought the people together, but instead has divided the people. I'm trying to bring the people together. So that's one thing I do see in the future. So I'll be working to expand myself by creating opportunities for others.
Is there any advice you'd like to give any possible newcomers in this genre?
Don't stop growing. Don't stop learning. Don't be afraid. If you have any doubts in your mind, either get them out of your head or get out of the game. It's a dirty game. There's plenty of leeches, but there's also plenty of good people. Just think twice before you make a large decision. And do not hesitate to ask questions. Read the fine print and listen to what people say. Watch how they move. That's all I have for now.
Man, shit's insane. It's hard to maintain cause of the mundane astronomy. Caught up in such deranged hypocrisy, it follows me physically and logically. I don't see how I can speak softly when the evils like to follow me. Yo, what's the point of being a scholar when you ain't seeing a dollar? I can't even eat until tomorrow.